Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. How are you all doing? So please guys, watch this story and tell me what you think. Please subscribe.
Please keep me anonymous. I'm a teenager who was schooling at a certain school I would like not to mention. I'm from a very wealthy family, but due to greed and selfishness, they don't help and push each other up. So due to that, me and my family are middle class. Although my mom is married to another man and doesn't give me attention. As for my father, he does try his best, but mostly drinks a lot. So all my life I've been staying with my grannies. So back to the school that I was in. The school was good, but whenever I was there, I wasn't feeling okay and active in my spirit. I usually felt like there was a huge cloud shadowing me, and as a result, wasn't active in school. Most of my colleagues bullied me too, so I told my mother I wanted to leave the school, but she didn't mind me. So during the pandemic, she told my granny to let me come and stay with her. To be honest, that was my first time staying with her, and after a month and roughly 2 weeks, she asked me to go back to my grandma, and I told her I'm going to stay with my father. So I went and stayed with my father, who was also staying with a friend. All these happened in Accra. So eventually, I didn't want to go to the school anymore. I wasn't happy there, felt unappreciated, and was always falling sick there. And at that time, a male friend I made at where my mom was introduced me to his church, thinking maybe I'll get help from that place. It's one of the biggest rising churches in Ghana, currently with a very huge life program that I would not like to mention. And through that church, I got help from one of the shepherds, who happens to be the leader of the shepherds in the church. Also, he's a married man with a kid. He approached me one day after we've done crossing over. That is, we were entering another year. He really showed great interest in my welfare, and that led me to tell him how I wish I was in another school. So he decided to help me. His wife didn't like me that much, but I was doing my best for her to like me by being obedient and respectful. So eventually, I went to stay with the pastor's mom in Cape Coast, who was also an asthmatic patient, and I was the one taking care of her. She was strong, just that I had to make sure she's on her oxygen on time and cooking sometimes for us. So as time went on, I got an admission in one of the schools in Cape Coast, and I was told to get permission signature from my previous school's headmaster. So I and the man went to the school in Kumasi to consult the headmaster, of which he didn't approve. He wants the one who sent me to his school to rather come there for me to go ahead. And on our way going back to Accra, Google Map led us to a certain place, but he managed to drive until we were at Akimoda, and he headed to Somenya in the eastern region because he had to check on a project there since he was an architect. We arrived very late, and he sent me to buy food for us to eat, which I did. When I came back to ask him a question, he was on a phone with his wife, and his wife seemed to be very angry, and I heard her voice because she was on loudspeaker. But when he noticed my presence, he lowered the volume. After buying the food, I went back to his car and we headed to where he stays at Somenya. So after eating, I took my bath and decided to rest on the tiled floor. But he told me, in quotes, "We are a family now. He can't let me sleep on the floor to make me feel inferior. So I should sleep on the bed." At the time when I was about to sleep, he was doing the Huge Life program, praying and praising God, because that's what the Huge Life stream was about. I was also a member myself, but that day I was tired, so I slept. I don't really remember the time, but I felt that someone has grabbed me by the waist very tightly. So the thought that came in mind was, is he testing me to see if I'm one of those girls who give themselves to men? Because I've lived with quite a number of people and have done house help jobs before them. I noticed that he wanted to pull down my underwear. That's when I realized he's up to something and was feeling scared, so I begged and told him that I wanted to go to the washroom. I immediately switched on the lights to see if it was really him, and it was. So I went inside the bathroom and locked myself. I looked down and he was still standing there telling me to come out. I didn't know what to do because I was scared. I opened it after some time and went to bed. He started to do that again, and I made myself to be very firm as a way of fighting back because I couldn't scream. My mouth was blocked because his head was down in the pillow. So after some time of struggling with him, he released onto the bed. He wasn't able to have sex with me that night because the thing didn't go through, although he was trying and forcing it inside. I cried the rest of the evening, and in the morning, he told me he was sorry and that he was stressed out. I called him dad, and it was funny whenever I'm around him. But that particular day, I was quiet and thinking about what he tried to do that night. I was feeling pains around my inner part, so that was the first attempt. We went to Accra and I went to Cape Coast again to be with his mother. The second attempt was when his mother died. The one I was staying with, it was left with some days for her 1 week celebration to be held. The woman's place was full, and around 10 in the evening, dogs were making noise in front of the house, and I decided to go and shoo them away. After I did that, I went back inside, and after some time, someone came knocking on my door. I went to check, and it was him again with his laptop, phone, and modem, doing that same huge live stream again. He said he decided to come here because the place was full and there was two beds in my room. So he laid on one of the beds and I slept. After some time, of which I do not remember, I felt a grasp of someone holding my waist tight, like the same position he did the other time. And I recall saying, "Dad, please don't do this." And I was crying. But he was strong and forced it inside and then released that instant on the bed. And at that time, his wife was pregnant too. The next morning, he didn't apologize or say anything to me like the other time. I became scared whenever I see him and was going through this huge anxiety and depression. I even got acne on my face. That same time too, I got admission in the school I am now in. I was unhappy, but I didn't have any spiritual issues with the school like what I was experiencing in my old school. And due to that, whenever we vacate, I didn't want to go and stay with them anymore. I went to stay at one of my auntie's place. So his wife thought I was ungrateful, but I was doing that for her. I didn't want anything to happen in her house because that will make me the one trying to tear the family apart, because I didn't know how to tell anybody, because I thought nobody would believe me because he's a pastor, and not just a pastor, he heads the shepherds too. The third one happened when the woman's funeral was done at Apam, and I was taken to one of the woman's brother's house to stay with since everybody was returning to their respective houses and towns. I was taken to the room of the pastor since everybody knows I'm his daughter, because the place was full at that time and he wasn't even sleeping there too, so I was okay. Honestly, the family really helped and showed me great love and kindness, and the woman's brother's daughters who are from abroad also took a liking to me and was asking me so many questions. There was this day that I and the lady talked until it was almost getting to midnight, and we bid each other good night and I went to sleep. That one too, I can't figure out the time he came to bed, but whatever I remember was him trying to do what he did the other time again. And I even saw him tearing up a condom, and he used his leg to block my legs and sat on it, forcing it inside. I managed to run to the washroom and locked the door, and he was knocking on the door. I got scared. I opened it and I told him not to do this, and that he has a very wonderful family. And he asked me that what was his uncle's daughter and I talking about, and I said she was asking me about my background. I was crying at the same time, and he said even if I tell her anything, she can't help me. I cried the rest of the evening till morning, not knowing what to tell anybody or would I be believed. I distanced myself from the lady, and every day I was always indoors listening to sad songs. Part 2 is up. Part 2. I distanced myself from the lady and was always indoors listening to sad songs and crying. I sometimes called the wife of the main head of the church wanting to tell her, but I will ask another question about why is it that some people are lucky in life and some of us aren't and have to suffer. So I went back to school, and at that time I told whatever had happened to me to the male friend who introduced me to the church, who happens to stop that church, and my aunties and grandma, but they couldn't help because of money issues. So the main head of the church of that huge live stream in Ghana now visited him, and he told him all that I've said to him on phone because he had recorded me. I was angry and furious that why would he do that? The man visited me 2 days before we went to vacate. He came to my school and we headed to my hostel. He started talking about how he had helped me when I was down and how he allowed me to stay with his mom. And I also talked about how I helped the mother even when she was sick. I was by her side always until her passing at Accra when she went for a checkup. Then he told me that the things I told that my friend of mine is all over the church. And then he told me again that it's a lie and it's only him and the main pastor and their wives who knows about it. And that he wants me to do a voice audio saying that all that I told a friend of mine is a lie, and that he will still let the woman, that's his mom's brother's wife, who was taking care of my education, to still do it and to save his marriage. I cried in his car and I asked him 4 consecutive times that, Dad, didn't you do anything bad to me? Of which he admitted to it the fourth time. So I did a voice audio, and the following day I had biology practicals to do. I failed because I wasn't concentrating. I always put a fake smile, and I give it a lot to other people too. Most people who know me by my little generosity knows what I am talking about. But deep down, I was dying inside, all because I had no hope that I'll make it one day and help my family, because the disrespect and looking down on people who don't have is very heartbreaking, of which I happen to be part. So after we vacated and opened again, I called the pastor to tell him school was open, but he wasn't picking or answering any of my texts. So I told someone in the family about all that has happened, and she told me to send a message to the woman who was paying for my hostel fees and everything. I did, and a few days later, this pastor called me, and I quote, "I can't take care of you for you to destroy my family. I once told you are part of this family, but you are not now. Plus, don't call my number again." I wanted to say that, but I haven't done anything wrong. He told me to shut up for him to talk. And he continued and said that he would send me the number of the month I was born in head at church, and that is if I'm still part of the church, and hanged up. He called again and said, "Do I have anything to say?" And I told him I have nothing to say, and he hanged up. I cried for several days. I couldn't even bath or eat. So the person who told me to tell the woman who was taking care of me truly believed me. She would help me, and truly I did so. And the woman helped me a lot, but she blocked me, which I don't know why. Plus, the wife of the head of the church called when I was at the hostel and asked me why I didn't tell her all this information. And I said I didn't know how to say it and thought nobody would believe me. But because my colleagues were there, I couldn't talk further. And then the lady was talking and said, "Was it because of the money he gives me?" And I replied, "No." And she asked me if this number was my Momo number, and I replied, "Yes." But after she hung up, I sent her a message on WhatsApp telling her that if it was because of money, that's why I wasn't able to tell her what had happened to me. She shouldn't send me her money for it to be like I'm using her too. If that's how she thinks I am. Also, that pastor who plays me in this drama is also a gospel musician now. The Lord is really taking care of me ever since he and the woman stopped doing that. But I usually have flashbacks of whatever happened to me most of the times. And what I feel inside is rage and anger. And how I want him to feel the pain that he put me through. Plus,